Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Ale. Welcome back to my world of stocks, and welcome back to my monthly update series where we cover three specific topics. Number one, the current state of the stock market and how I feel about everything that's going on a kind of like a more macro level. Number two, what stocks I've been buying or selling over the past month, which is, of course, August of 2020. And then number three, what stocks I'm interested in buying this month here in September 2020. And if you guys want to jump to a specific part of the video, I'll go ahead and leave timestamps for you down below. All I ask in return is that you please hit the like button if you enjoy the video, enjoy the series. It really helps the channel. It means a lot to me. It lets me know you guys want more of these in the future. But with all that said, we got a lot to cover. So let's go ahead and start with part one, the current state of the stock market. And I think that can really be summed up by simply saying all-time record highs during what might be one of the craziest years that many of us have ever experienced. And it doesn't really matter what we look at here in terms of the three major indexes, as basically all of them are at record highs, with the Dow Jones up slightly year to date, the S&P 500 up even more at double digits, just over 10% there, and of course the tech-heavy Nasdaq up the most of all at almost 35% year to date, after having skyrocketed off the crash earlier this year, since so many of those stocks actually benefited from people staying at home and having to rely on big tech to either work or attend school or shop, do like online shopping. Maybe they're glued to social media, maybe they're streaming television shows and movies, and so on. You really get the idea. Anyway, this is all pretty incredible considering the state of the economy. Now, much of this rally has been fueled by optimism over a sharp recovery, and so far we are at least starting to see some progress, as initial jobless claims have been mostly trending downward since April. However, last week's results were still over 1 million, which marks 22 out of the last 23 weeks that claims have been higher than 1 million, which is also way higher than anything that we would typically see. In fact, we never even reached a million in a single week during the Great Recession. Now, I generally look at continuing claims because it really tells us more accurately like how many people are still unemployed and receiving benefits. And to be fair, that number continues to go down almost every single week, which is definitely a sign of improvement. But even then, we're still talking about more than 14.5 million people unemployed and uninsurance, which if we zoom out, we can see that it's about double the highest amount that we saw during the Great Recession, which was only around 6 to 7 million. And why is this important? Well, about 70% of America's economy is consumer driven. And even if you have a job right now, what are the chances that you want to go out and spend large amounts of money when there is so much uncertainty surrounding the global health issue, not to mention all the civil unrest that's been going on? So, it's always fear that really kills consumer confidence. And it's just hard to imagine that anyone is confident about how things are going right now in the country, and that's leading to less spending, of course. Here's a chart of consumer spending that surged since the last election, only to fall off a cliff this year. And when looking at consumer confidence, we're also at one of the lowest points in the past 25 years. And really the only reason that we're not any lower is because we've been printing unbelievable amounts of money in hopes that we can just kind of print our way out of this, but that also runs the risk of leaving us with huge inflation in the future because of the higher amounts of money and debt. That's not to say, though, that there aren't reasons to be optimistic. The CDC recently clarified some of their numbers that I can't really discuss here because big tech is just kind of censoring any discussion of it. But there's also new advancements in therapeutics, while the race to release a V-shot before the end of this year continues to make progress. And I think there's a good chance that businesses can start returning to kind of normal capacities a short time after that. And I'm hoping that the economy will follow suit. But still, to be trading at record highs during, again, what is one of the scariest and definitely one of the most stressful times in history is pretty crazy. And I think what a lot of people also tend to forget is that this is still an election year, and we've got two candidates from two parties that have very different, very conflicting views, and that also includes the way that they look to handle our economy. Don't get me wrong though, I'm still optimistic about the future. As a long-term investor, I tend to play the role of a long-term optimist most of the time, but the reality of the situation is that we just really don't know how a lot of these things are going to play out or how the market is going to react to some of it. So just to kind of summarize everything, I do understand why the market is up so much based on optimism and, of course, based on giant stimulus. But at the same time, I still feel that the possibility or the risk of a correction or a pullback in the market is still pretty high. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell you when things are going to happen or make any kind of predictions on that. But it's definitely led to me being more cautious than I generally am. Which leads us to part two, and that's what stocks did I buy or sell over this past month? And as you guys might expect, I'm just not making a lot of big moves right now. I'm being a little more cautious. But this past month, I actually did pick up two brand new positions in my portfolio. So I do just want to quickly cover what those are. They're tiny positions, they were small moves, but I still want to cover them and let you know what I bought. And then we'll also talk about, right after, we'll talk about what stocks I'm looking to buy in this next month here in September 2020. So let's just run through all of these right now. Okay, now on the sell side of things this past month, I didn't make any moves. So no selling this past month here in August, only purchases. And one of the first stocks I bought was actually an ETF called the Vanguard High Dividend Yield ETF that is very well diversified across many sectors. It owns many of my personal favorite dividend stocks and has a very small expense ratio to go along with it. And in my opinion, this ETF is still trading at reasonable levels after having crashed earlier this year, which leaves it down still slightly over 10% year to date, which really isn't bad at all considering how high the broader market is, basically trading at new records. It currently pays a very nice dividend yield of about 4%, and I was able to pick it up at around $80 a share and a couple other levels around that as well, which I'm all happy with. The other brand new stock though that I purchased is actually more of a spec stock, and that is the mobile gaming company called Glue Mobile, which I recently talked about in my Spec Stocks 2020 video. But I just really like them because it gives me more exposure to the gigantic mobile gaming market that is really growing faster than both consoles and PCs, and accounts for nearly half of all gaming revenues in the entire world at over $77 billion. Yeah, Glue is still relatively small, only generating hundreds of millions of dollars right now, but growing at some very high rates. Almost 30% growth is expected this year alone. I consider them speculative because they only recently started to turn a profits, but I'm hoping that a number of lucrative licensing deals, including ones with the MLB, WWE, and even Disney, will help them become a larger player in the future. The stock is currently up about 30% this year, so it's not exactly cheap, but they are at least down over 25% from their 52-week high, and I was able to pick them up at various levels around this price. So we'll see what happens. It's just less than 1% of my portfolio right now, and I'm really treating it as a long-term gamble, but if it drops a bit more, I'll probably continue to buy a little bit more as well. But overall, just a pretty mediocre month in terms of moves. I was mostly just kind of staying on the sidelines and letting a lot of my stocks appreciate in value, and also let them accumulate more dividend income for my dividend paying stocks, which I'm actually looking to increase now more than ever. Because if I'm worried about the current state of the market and I think there's going to be a lot of volatility, maybe some pullbacks, things like that, it just becomes that much more important to have some of those very solid companies that have paid dividends even throughout crashes and times of hardships and things like that. So I'll probably be focused on picking up some more of those stocks here in September. And there's also another stock that doesn't even pay a dividend, but I'll go ahead and include it and we'll talk about that one too. So let's go ahead and run through that list. We'll do that right now. Okay, well, for starters, I'd love to pick up some more VYM. Of course, it's still a very small position of mine, and I love to get that larger so I can really collect some more meaningful dividends from it. On top of that, I'll probably pick up some more AT&T as well. I don't know why it continues to trade so cheap, but really anywhere less than $30 a share is a no-brainer for me because the dividend yield is over 7% with a massive 36 years of consecutive growth. I have no idea why Seeking Alpha only says 25 years. It really should say 36. I feel like Seeking Alpha has been kind of glitching a lot lately on the years. But anyway, the most recent news with AT&T is that they might be looking to sell their DirecTV business. And I guess Wall Street maybe doesn't really like like it that much because the stock has remained very low even with this news going around. But I would personally be fine with the move myself. It's obvious that the future is online TV and streaming versus satellite cable TV, as you can clearly see on this chart from Bloomberg that shows how many subs they continue to lose every single quarter. And the proceeds can help them pay down their massive debts from acquiring Time Warner and also help them overall just kind of continue pushing out their HBO Max and the other parts of their businesses that are performing a lot better. So again, just kind of overall, I'm still pretty happy with my AT&T position, and I'll likely be buying some more at these levels this month to really beef up even more dividends there. Another long-term paying dividend stock that I would also love to pick up is the world's largest healthcare company in Johnson & Johnson, which I did also recently talk about in my Market Crash Part 2 video. I don't currently own it myself, but the gist of it is that I just really think that the stock has been held back from breaking out in recent years because of bad PR and lawsuits, but that's really left them with a reasonable valuation and a very nice dividend of almost 2.7% with a massive growth history of 57 consecutive years. Seeking Alpha is glitching on this one too, but it should really say 57 years. But huge household brands, a front runner in the V-shot for the pepperoni race, and a solid dividend all attract me to Johnson & Johnson. I'd love to pick them up, turn it into a long-term position. And then finally, there's just one other stock that I don't currently own, but I'm really interested in picking up, and that's Electronic Arts, ticker symbol EA. And I did mention them last month, but just really the fact that they're one of the largest gaming companies in the world with huge titles, especially through their super valuable licensing deals with the NFL, FIFA, UFC, and even Star Wars, and yet they still have the lowest valuation amongst some of their largest peers. It's really made me want to pick up this stock and own it long term. I haven't bought into them yet because it's currently trading at some pretty high levels, but if I can manage to pick this one up at around the midpoint of the $130 range, or hopefully even less, I might actually start to chip away at a small long-term position and then just kind of build it up more so over time. Anyway, I think that just about does it for today's video. Those are my thoughts on the current state of the market, some moves I've been doing, and what I'm looking to do here in September as well. So let me know what you think about any of these down below, and let me know if there's any stocks that you're making some moves in as well, and I'll keep those in mind, and maybe I'll make future videos on them also, and I'll try to respond to your comments as well. But anyway, thank you guys for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button. It really helps a lot. It means a lot to me. Stay safe out there, guys. I'm wishing you the best in everything, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.